Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here, and so I want us to move on to exploring polynomials in factored form. So we're going to look specifically at factored form, and today we're going to try and figure out what's happening at the zeros. So for these first two examples, I'm going to try them both for you. So I give you two functions. I'm going to ask you to open Desmos. You're going to want to make them windows so you can see what's happening. We're going to look carefully what's happening at the x-intercepts. So if they're in factored form, you know the x-intercepts would be if you set them equal to 0. And so you can easily see your x-intercepts. So for this first one, you can see I have x-intercepts at -5. I'm going to write that down for you can see it. And 1. I do want to always look at the degree. So this was a degree 2 polynomial, and its leading coefficient was 2, so it was positive. All right, so this is a quick sketch of the graph. We're not looking for anything more than that, no more points. And so I'm going to ask you to go through that for each of the functions on this page, and I want you to use Desmos to help you. So I'm going to ask you to do that now and turn us back on, okay? When you're finished. Okay, so you're back. You finished this whole page, and I'm looking at like number 2. You should have seen a nice little graph kind of turning around right there. Degree 2, leading coefficient of 1. If we look at this one, we had 3 zeros, one at 3, -2, and 1. It was a degree 3 polynomial, leading coefficient of 2. Your graph should have looked something like that. You might have gone higher or lower. That's fine. Number 4, it was a degree 3 polynomial, leading coefficient of 1, and hopefully your graph looked something like that. All right, here we've got a couple things happening here. We have a degree 4 polynomial because you add the degrees. Leading coefficient was negative, and your graph looked something like that. And you might have noticed that the graph kind of looked a little cubic here, and then it kind of went straight through here. I actually refer to that as a squiggle, and it came from here. So I want you to think about that a little bit. Number 6, it was a degree 4. Leading coefficient was -1, and you could see I had an x-intercept of 4 and -3, and so it looked something like that. Yours might have looked slightly different, but overall, I'm really focused on what's happening at the intercepts. This one got a little crazy for me. Probably should have spread it out a little more, but you could see I kind of went through each point like this and down. And then the last one, I had everything going on. I had a -5, a 2, and a 1. I had a degree 3, 2, and 1, which gave me a degree 6 polynomial and a leading coefficient of 1. So I'd love for you to take a second and see what you notice about the factored form and the behavior of the graphs at the zeros, and can you make any conjectures? So press pause and then come back to us here, okay? All right, so you're back, and so some of the things I was really hoping you noticed was that the degree, whether it be 1, 2, or 3, and those are going to be the 3 that we have, they inform what happens at the x-intercept. So when we have a degree 1, so let's just pretend in this last one, like we had x plus 1, it's a degree 1. Think about it being just that plain old function. That's a linear function. So at that intercept, it's going to go through it. It goes straight through it, just like a line would. So you can see right here, it's going straight through at -1. All right, y equals x minus 2 squared. So that was at our intercept of a 2, and it's quadratic, which we know is going to turn around. And so this quadratic in particular is the square of a binomial, which we know at its intercept, it kind of turns around because the vertex is the x-intercept. And we call that a bounce. So it bounces at the x-intercept. And then the last one was that x plus 5 cubed. Now we know that the cubic graph looks like that. I call that a squiggle. And hopefully you noticed that anytime it was a degree 3, that was kind of what was happening at that x-intercept. So those conjectures or those things that we saw in class and now through this activity are true. So now you're going to want to make that behavior happen in our future graphs. So if it's a degree 1, it's going to go through at the x-intercept. If it's a degree 2, it will bounce at that x-intercept and turn right around. It could bounce down, it could bounce up. And at 3, it's going to kind of squiggle through the points. All right. That's it for now. Hopefully that was helpful. You're going to move on to part 4.